The first time they laughed, she didn't flinch. The echo of their voices bounced off the steel walls of the training bay, sharp and careless. "Hey, Birdie," one of them called out, mocking the small patch sewn onto her sleeve. "You gonna fly us out of here when things get rough?" The laughter that followed was cruel and young, the kind of laughter that hides insecurity. She just tightened the strap on her gear and kept walking. Her name was Lieutenant Ava Monroe, 27 years old, the first woman in her unit to even make it past Phase 2 of SEAL training. Her call sign, Birdie, wasn't one she had chosen. It had started as a joke. During a night navigation drill, she'd found a stranded drone in the mud. Its wings snapped. She'd carried it on her back for miles until the exercise ended, saying softly, "Can't just leave a bird broken." Someone overheard and the name stuck. Birdie. At first it was affectionate. Then, when she kept outperforming some of the men, it turned mocking. That night in the barracks, she heard them joking again. "Hey, Birdie, you flapping your wings tomorrow or need a head start?" "Nah, she'll be too busy rescuing pigeons." Ava didn't respond. Instead, she rolled onto her side, staring at the wall where a pin-up calendar of muscle-bound soldiers hung. She whispered to herself, "Focus. Don't let them see you break." Training was merciless. Cold ocean swims, sand drills, drown-proofing, navigation, explosives, and endless tactical tests. The instructors barked orders without mercy, and most of the trainees barely made it through the first month. Ava was quiet, precise, methodical. She didn't try to be liked. She tried to be excellent, but they didn't make it easy. Once during a live fire exercise, someone switched her loaded magazine with a dummy one. When her rifle clicked empty mid-drill, she didn't panic. She dropped, reloaded from her backup, and completed the exercise faster than anyone else. The instructors saw everything. They didn't intervene. They wanted to see what she'd do under pressure. Later that evening, the same guys who laughed earlier tried to act friendly at the mess hall. "Not bad, Birdie. Guess you can fly and shoot." She just smiled politely. "Guess I can." One person watched her more closely than the others. Commander Rafe Dalton, the SEAL leader who ran advanced ops selection. He'd served 15 years, seen more action than anyone in the room, and rarely smiled. He was the kind of man whose silence carried weight. He didn't mock her. He didn't praise her either. Just watched. The day came when everything changed. It was the final week of Hell Phase, a brutal, non-stop 72-hour test of endurance, focus, and teamwork. Trainees were sleepless, cold, and hungry. They had to complete a simulated mission in pitch-dark ocean conditions, navigating to a target point using only compass and instinct. Teams of 4 launched in inflatable boats, waves smashing into them under freezing rain. Ava's team had 3 others: Lopez, Darnell, and Reeves, the loudest of her critics. "Try not to get lost, Birdie," Reeves sneered as they shoved off. "Wouldn't want you rescuing seagulls again." She ignored him, scanning the horizon with calm precision. The sea was violent, wind roaring like an animal. Every few minutes, spray hit their faces like ice knives. They rowed in silence, the only sound their paddles cutting through black water. After hours of battling waves, they reached a small island marked on the map. But as they hauled the boat ashore, something was wrong. The place was too quiet, too staged. Then came the flare, a burst of red light tearing the night sky apart. Gunfire echoed from hidden speakers. A mock ambush training protocol. "Down," Ava shouted instinctively, diving behind cover. The others followed, returning fake fire with blanks. But then she noticed Darnell had gone down hard, clutching his leg. "I'm hit," he yelled. The bullet was simulated, but his injury was real. He'd tripped over barbed wire hidden beneath the sand, blood soaking through his fatigues. "Get him to the extraction point," Ava yelled, taking command when the others hesitated. Move. Lopez hesitated. We'll lose time. Then move faster. With Reeves covering, they lifted Darnell and dragged him toward the shore. Rain blurred their vision, waves pounding the beach. Ava was the last to reach the boat. A massive wave crashed, flipping it sideways. Equipment scattered into the sea. One of the radios sank instantly. Reeves cursed. We're screwed. Not yet, Ava said, scanning the darkness. There's a ridge up there. If we can reach it, we can signal the chopper manually. Through the rocks? That's suicide. But she was already moving. Crawling. Pushing through mud and stone, carrying half the weight of Darnell while Lopez steadied him. Every step was agony. By the time they reached the ridge, the wind howled so loud it drowned their voices. Ava set up a flare, hands shaking from cold. It sputtered once, then went out. She tried again. Nothing. Reeves kicked a stone. We're done. This is over. Ava looked at him, eyes burning with something fierce. You don't quit until the ocean does. Then she did something no one expected. She took out a waterproof pouch from her vest and pulled out a compact drone, one of the new reconnaissance models used for classified ops. Where the hell did you get that? Lopez said, astonished. Borrowed it. From where? Doesn't matter. She powered it on, shielded it from the rain, and synced it to her wrist pad. The little machine whirred to life, blinking blue, fighting the wind as it took off. She guided it upward through the storm, stabilizing the feed. When the signal hit the command center miles away, the monitors flickered. Commander Dalton's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward, watching the live feed from her drone, showing her team's exact coordinates, their condition, their surroundings. That's not standard issue gear, one instructor muttered. Dalton said nothing. He just watched. Back on the ridge, Ava spoke quietly into her mic. Command, this is Birdie. Target team secured. One casualty stable. Coordinates locked. Awaiting extraction. Static filled her ear. Then a clear voice came through. Copy that, Birdie. Stand by. Reeves just stared at her, rain dripping from his helmet. You had a drone this whole time? What the hell are you? Before she could answer, the roar of a helicopter cut through the storm. Searchlights sliced the darkness as the bird hovered above, ropes dropping down. The extraction team descended fast, pulling them up one by one. When Ava climbed aboard last, soaked and trembling, Commander Dalton himself was there. He didn't say a word as the helicopter lifted off. The others sat in stunned silence, glancing at her like she was something they didn't understand. Back at base after debriefing, the team was called into the hangar. Dalton stood at the front, arms crossed. The drone Ava used sat on a nearby table, gleaming under fluorescent light. Lieutenant Monroe, he said slowly, his voice carrying through the silent room. Where did you get this device? She hesitated. Sir, I retrieved it during my previous assignment. It wasn't listed in the standard equipment, but I believed it could assist in rescue operations. You weren't authorized to use it during training, one instructor snapped. Dalton raised a hand to silence him. He stepped closer to Ava. That's a model we don't even issue to active teams yet. How did you have clearance? The room went still. Reeves looked smug, certain she'd be reprimanded. Lopez frowned. Ava said nothing, standing at attention, soaked fatigue, clinging to her skin. Dalton stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He leaned in just enough that only she could hear him. That's classified, he whispered. Every man in the room froze. Dalton straightened, turned to the rest of the trainees, and said in a calm, almost casual tone, For the record, Lieutenant Monroe's actions tonight were above protocol, and precisely what we expect from leadership. Reeves' smirk died instantly. Lopez blinked. Darnell tried to sit up straighter, despite his bandaged leg. Dalton continued. Her call sign, Birdie, comes from something none of you understand. But you will. He turned and left the room, leaving a silence so thick it felt like gravity. Ava stood motionless, unsure what had just happened. Later that night, as the others packed their gear in uneasy quiet, Lopez finally spoke. Birdie, you one of those black ops people or something? She didn't answer. Just looked out the barracks window where rain still fell, and whispered. Something like that. But she didn't see Dalton in his office, phone pressed to his ear, saying softly, Yeah, she's ready. Activate Project Wrap. Dalton ended the call, his jaw tight. The room's dim light caught the silver streak in his hair as he stared at the silent phone. Outside, rain hammered against the glass. He knew what this meant. Once he said those words, there was no going back. Project Raptor was off the books, hidden even from most of the Pentagon. It wasn't a mission. It was a test. And Lieutenant Ava Monroe had just passed the part no one was supposed to survive. The next morning, the base felt strangely calm. The trainees moved slower, quieter, like they were walking through fog. Ava noticed the way they looked at her had changed. No more jokes, no more smirks, just wary silence, as if they suddenly realized she wasn't one of them. She tried to blend in, but it didn't work. During inspection, Dalton's aide handed her a sealed envelope. Commander wants you in Hangar 7. Nah, Hangar 7 wasn't on any of the training maps. It was at the far edge of the compound, surrounded by security fencing and warning signs that read authorized personnel only. She hesitated before swiping her badge. The lock clicked green. Inside, the hangar was enormous and dimly lit, the air humming faintly with electricity. Dalton stood beside a sleek, black aircraft, unlike anything she'd seen before. Small, fast, stealth-shaped. Morning, Lieutenant, he said, his tone even. How's your leg? She blinked. My leg's fine, sir. Good, because you're flying out. She frowned. Sir, I wasn't aware of any deployment. You aren't, he interrupted. Not officially. He motioned her closer. You're being reassigned. Temporarily. Reassigned to what? He looked at her for a long moment, eyes sharp and unreadable. To finish something you started 3 years ago. Her stomach tightened. I don't understand. He handed her a tablet. On the screen was a photo, grainy, infrared. A group of armed men in the desert, faces hidden. The timestamp read, ALN bar, Iraq, 2 years ago. You recognize this? Dalton asked. Her throat went dry. Yes, sir, that's Operation Dustfall. He nodded slowly. And the reason you left the field before your team was extracted? She hesitated. Classified, sir. Dalton's eyes glinted. Good answer. He lowered his voice. That mission wasn't just about taking down a cell. You intercepted something, didn't you? Her pulse quickened. A data drive, containing coordinates. I was ordered to deliver it to command, but she trailed off. It was stolen during the extraction. I never found out by who. Dalton folded his arms. You're going to find out now. The words hit her like a shockwave. Sir, with respect, that mission is sealed. Not anymore, he said. The people who took that drive resurfaced last week. And they know your name. Ava's hands clenched unconsciously. You think they're coming after me? They already are, Dalton said quietly. That's why you're being moved under deep cover. Effective immediately, you don't exist. She took a slow breath. And my team? Your team stays here. They don't need to know. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. They mocked your call sign, Lieutenant, but they have no idea what it really means. You weren't called Birdie because of that drone. You were called Birdie because of what happened in Al-Anba, the way you flew out of a burning compound, carrying 2 wounded men when the evac chopper never came. They called you a ghost with wings. That's why the name's stuck in our records. And that's why you're the only one who can do this. Ava's chest tightened. She remembered the sandstorm, the chaos, the screams. She remembered dragging her teammates through fire while gunfire rained down. But she'd buried all that, until now. When do I leave? She asked quietly. Now, Dalton said. And one more thing. No one can know where you've gone. Not even me. She nodded. Understood. Hours later, the aircraft roared across the ocean under a crimson sky. Ava sat in silence, strapped into a single seat, her gear beside her. The hum of the engines was steady, comforting. She tried to rest, but her mind replayed Dalton's words. They know your name. When the plane touched down, it wasn't on a military runway. It was in the middle of nowhere, a desert base that didn't exist on any map. 2 men greeted her without introduction, leading her into a bunker carved into stone. Inside, the air was cool and sterile. Computer screens glowed, showing satellite feeds and encrypted maps. A woman in black tactical uniform approached, her expression sharp. Lieutenant Monroe, welcome to Ghost Division. Ava blinked. Ghost Division? The woman nodded. We handle threats that don't officially exist. Your file said you'd understand that kind of silence. Ava said nothing. The woman gestured to a large screen showing a symbol, an eagle with broken wings. 2 years ago, you intercepted a data drive containing GPS coordinates to a black site. That site wasn't a terrorist base, it was a CIA hold. Inside was something they were never supposed to build, a satellite uplink prototype capable of hijacking drones mid-flight. Ava felt her blood run cold. And now it's missing? Not missing, the woman said grimly. Reactivated. Someone's using it to take over U.S. recon birds. The last hijack attempt nearly took out a SEAL op in Somalia. Ava understood now. The drone she'd used during training, the one Dalton recognized, had been one of those, and she'd operated it flawlessly. Why me? She asked quietly. The woman smirked. Because you already know how it works. You were the only one who saw it in action before it vanished. That night, Ava sat alone in her quarters, staring at the mission dossier. Her photo, her fingerprints, her entire file, all stamped with one word, erased. She wasn't Lieutenant Ava Monroe anymore. She was just Birdie. Sleep wouldn't come. The desert wind howled outside and her thoughts spun like a broken compass. She thought of her old team, of Lopez, of Rees, the mockery in their voices. She wondered what they'd think if they knew the truth. The next morning, the operation began, codenamed Raven's Veil. The target, a rogue contractor believed to be controlling the hijacked system. Location, an abandoned fortress deep in the Iranian mountains. Ava was leading the infiltration. The journey was brutal. They parachuted under moonlight, trekking through canyons for hours. Every sound, every gust of wind felt alive. Ava's instincts took over, quiet, alert, calculating. Halfway up a rocky incline, her comm crackled. Team 2 in position, whispered a voice. You're clear, Birdie. She froze. The voice. It was Reed. She turned sharply, scanning the ridgeline. And then she saw him, helmet on, rifle drawn. Lopez beside him, Darnell limping slightly. But there. Her old team. What are you doing here? She hissed into the radio. Reeves smirked through his visor. Commander said you might need backup. Dalton? Yeah. Said it was time we learned what Birdie really does. Her chest tightened with a mix of anger and relief. You shouldn't be here. This isn't training. This is real. Lopez's voice came through softly. We know. Let's finish it. They breached the compound just before dawn. The silence was eerie. No guards, no movement, just the faint buzz of power lines. Inside, computers blinked, humming faintly. Ava approached the main console, recognizing the interface instantly. The uplink system. This is it, she whispered. Cover me. As she began overriding the encryption, a voice echoed from the shadows. I was wondering when they'd send you. She turned slowly. A man stepped out, calm and smiling, his hands empty. Birdie Monroe, the ghost who flew out of hell. Who are you? She demanded. The one who finished what you started, he said. You brought the system online years ago. You just didn't know it. Her mind raced. That's not possible. I destroyed the core. He shook his head. You delivered the data. You built the prototype. You just didn't realize whose side you were on. A gun clicked behind her. Reeves, what are you? Sorry, Birdie, he said softly. Orders changed. Her blood ran cold. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the computers. Ava didn't move, her mind slicing through the situation like a blade. Reeves's voice was steady, too steady. Lopez shifted beside him, uncertain. Darnell's breathing grew fast and shallow. Something wasn't right. Orders changed, she said slowly, eyes flicking toward the man in the shadows. Whose orders? Reeves's jaw clenched. Dalton's. Her stomach dropped. That's impossible. The man behind the console smiled faintly. Is it? Then everything exploded at once. The lights flickered. Alarms blared and the screens flooded with red warnings. Lopez shouted, multiple heat signatures, West Corridor. Ava dove for cover as gunfire shattered the silence. The rogue mercenaries had been waiting. Reeves, get down, she yelled, pulling him behind a column. But he didn't move fast enough. A round grazed his shoulder. He cried out, dropping his rifle. Lopez returned fire. Darnell covering the rear. The fight was chaos, echoing in the metal halls, bullets sparking off consoles, smoke filling the air. Ava dragged Reeves out of the line of fire, pressing gauze to his wound. Stay with me, she shouted over the noise. His eyes were glassy. Birdie, I didn't save it, she snapped. We're not done yet. The man who'd spoken before was gone, vanished into the smoke. Ava grabbed her rifle and charged after him, boots pounding down the corridor. Every few steps, muzzle flashes lit the walls. She followed the echoes deeper, until she reached a locked steel door. Her hands moved instinctively, override, code breach. The door hissed open. Inside was a chamber filled with humming servers and one massive screen showing satellite feeds. At its center stood the man, calmly typing commands. Step away, Ava ordered. He turned, unbothered. So you don't even know what you're stopping. This isn't war, it's evolution. Hijacking our own drones, killing your own. He smiled, thinly. Collateral for progress. Ava took a step forward. You're ex-CIA, aren't you? You ran Dustfall before it went black. Smart girl, he said softly. That's why Dalton picked you. To finish what I started. She froze. Dalton, oh, you didn't know? The man laughed quietly. You think he's your savior? He created Project Raptor. You were just a prototype. He needed a soldier who could merge instinct with AI, fly machines without controls. That drone you carried in training? It wasn't testing your skills, Birdie. It was syncing to your neural signature. Her mind reeled. You're lying. Am I? He pointed to a console. Check the logs. Your name's been in the system since day one. Ava stepped closer, eyes flicking to the display. Project Raptor, Pilot ID, Monroe, A. Birdie. Status, active link. Her pulse thundered. Memories flooded back. Dalton watching her, the drone responding almost telepathically. The whispers she'd ignored. "Why tell me this?" she demanded. "Because you deserve to know what you are," he said softly. "You were designed to control the future of warfare. Dalton just made sure you'd never realize it until he needed you back." She raised her gun, fury burning behind her eyes. "Then I guess you'll never live to see his future." Before he could move, she fired. One shot. Clean. The man dropped instantly. The alarm still blared. She turned back toward the hall, sprinting to rejoin her team. Lopez and Darnell were holding the line, smoke thick and choking. Reeves, bleeding but alive, was trying to reload. "We have to move," Ava yelled. "Charges, set them now." They rigged the core room with C4, timers counting down. The team ran for the exit, bullets chasing their heels. As they burst into the open mountain air, the explosion ripped through the fortress, a blast of heat and light tearing the dawn apart. The four of them dove for cover, sand and debris raining down. When the noise finally died, all that remained was silence and the smell of smoke. Lopez coughed. "Birdie, what the hell was that place?" Ava stared at the rising plume of fire. "A mistake," she said quietly. They hiked for hours toward extraction, the sun baking the rocks around them. The desert was endless, shimmering with heat. Finally, the helicopter appeared on the horizon. As it landed, a figure stepped out. Commander Dalton. Ava's heart pounded. She raised her rifle, aiming squarely at him. Reeves froze. "Birdie, what are you doing?" Dalton lifted his hands, calm. "Stand down, Lieutenant. Tell him," she said. Her voice was low, dangerous. "Tell them what Project Raptor really is." His expression didn't change. "You wouldn't understand." "Try me." He looked at her team, then back at her. "You think I used you? But I saved you. That system, the neural sync, it would have killed anyone else. You were the only one strong enough to survive it. You're the reason we still have control of our skies." "That's not your call," she snapped. "No," he said quietly. "It was yours the moment you put that drone on your back 3 years ago." The wind whipped between them, carrying the stench of smoke and fuel. Ava's finger hovered over the trigger. Her team waited, breath held. Dalton's eyes never wavered. Then, slowly, she lowered the rifle. "Then my call is this," she said. "Project Raptor ends now." Dalton nodded once. "Understood." He turned away, signaling the pilot. As they lifted off, no one spoke. The desert shrank beneath them, the destroyed compound fading into dust. Back at the base, things moved fast. Debriefs, reports, silence. The mission was erased from every record within a day. Dalton gave no statements. Reeves was treated and cleared. Lopez and Darnell were reassigned. Ava packed her few belongings quietly, knowing she wouldn't be staying. That night, Dalton found her by the airstrip. The sky was clear, stars bright above the water. He walked up slowly, hands in his pockets. Leaving without a word, she didn't look at him. "You already erased me once, Commander. Figured I'd save you the paperwork." He smiled faintly. "You were always a step ahead." She turned then, eyes tired but steady. "You used me." "I trained you," he corrected softly. "And maybe I tested you harder than anyone else, but tell me you aren't stronger because of it." She said nothing. He glanced at the patch still on her sleeve. "Birdie, you know that call sign was never meant as an insult." "I know that now." "Then keep it," he said. "The world still needs someone who can fly through fire." She looked at him for a long moment, then extended her hand. He took it, firm and brief. When she boarded the transport plane, she didn't look back. Hours later, in a small military archive outside D.C., Dalton entered a restricted terminal. He typed in an access code. The screen lit up. Project Raptor, terminated. Subject, Monroe. A. Status, unknown. He stared at it for a long time, then smiled faintly. "Fly safe, Birdie," he murmured. Months passed. Somewhere over the South Pacific, a classified drone feed flickered online. The camera showed a stormy ocean and a single aircraft slicing through the clouds, small, silent, moving like a ghost. The signal carried a voice. Calm, steady, unmistakable. "This is Birdie. Mission complete. Returning home." Then the feed cut to black. In the end, the ones who mocked her call sign never understood that sometimes the smallest names hide the biggest wings. That strength isn't in the noise but in the quiet resolve to rise again and again, no matter the storm. And when they whispered Birdie after that, they did so with respect, because legends don't always roar. Sometimes they fly in silence.